You guys, what do you get when you get a mandolin, some Rome apples, lemon juice, and glycerin? Well, of course you get roses. Stay with me, guys. We're going to make roses out of apples today for Valentine's. Hello everyone, how are you? I am so excited. I've already gotten started with slicing my apples, and you're going to want these apples very, well, they don't have to be real thin. It just depends on how you like them. I would prefer them to be very thin opposed to more of this. And you have to be careful they don't crack like this one's getting ready to do. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to get something a little bit more like a pie plate to put these in so they can soak in this glycerin. The reason for the glycerin, it's going to keep them more pliable as they dry, and I'm going to dry them in my dehydrator. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to transfer what I have already cut. Just kind of wanted to get a head start on this. These make the most gorgeous roses, you guys, and they last a long time, years and years. I don't know how well these thicker ones are going to do. I did a few thick ones just to see. I have a feeling these thin ones are going to work a lot better. So what I'm doing now, like I said, I have them in a lemon juice and glycerin bath. I know when I used to get baby's breath years ago, and I'm talking years ago, they would, when I was in craft classes, they would preserve them with glycerin, and it would cause them to stay soft and they wouldn't get brittle and break. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take my mandolin. Let's see what. And I already washed this one, and I have it on the thinnest setting. It'll take probably, I guess probably 24 hours to a day and a half to get dry enough. I don't want them real dry, but I'll bring you back when I'm satisfied with the texture of them. Because then we have to start molding them into petals. And you need quite a few petals. That's why I'm slicing so many. Hi guys, I have my dehydrator ready to go. So let's start with the lowest. And my apples now are ready to be put on there. Like I said, these will take probably a day and a half, maybe a day. I keep checking them. And as soon as they're ready. I've had this dehydrator over 30 years. And I'll tell you what, it makes really good fruit roll-ups. I'm sure they have a lot more high-tech ones now. Maybe that don't even take as long, I don't know. And it smells good when they're drying too. When they're thicker, they have more of a tendency to crack. Like this one I can see. I'm hoping I can use these little ones for the bud. I hope everyone's doing well today. I believe we're already in, what is it now, going into the third week of January. That's it. Now we're just going to wait. It just plugs in and it has a slow heat. And as soon as they're done, I will come back and we will see, and we will start forming our roses. Okay guys, I think the apples are done. Okay. I think these are pretty well done. Got a little bit. But I do want to get it before it's completely dried. But do you see how the glycerin made these so pliable? Let's see if it did it to the thicker one. See the difference? I don't know if you can tell, but well, not sure you can. Well, yes you can. See the difference in the thickness? The glycerin really helped to make this thick one still pliable, and that's what you need if you're going to do roses, because you have to manipulate them. So this took 24 hours in my dehydrator. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take out some, get my dowel ready, my green floral tape, and the hot glue, and then we'll get started. Okay guys, what I'm doing first is I'm going to take this little, and you want the littlest piece of apple you can find for your bud, for the middle of your rose. All I'm doing is I'm just going to take it at its end, and I'm just going to start rolling it at an angle, okay? And as you can see, that made the bud. So now I have to get my dowel in there. That's good. Okay, so there we have the first piece of the bud. The reason I'm not using wire, well, first of all, I don't have a real thick wire. Secondly, the dowel is thicker and it just is going to adhere, I think, better with glue than it would with metal. So I'm going to go ahead now and pick out the pieces of apple that I want to go with this and get my glue gun going, and we're in business. Okay, once you have your base, your first bud, you're going to go down just a little bit, not much, because you don't want the petal to be higher than the rosebud. And I don't know if I'm just going to keep wrapping. I may just do that. But when they're pliable, it's almost like using clay. And if you go back to my video that I did, bread dough flowers, and if any of you would like me to do a new video on that, I will, if you want to see that. But they make beautiful, beautiful little porcelain, and it looks just like porcelain when they're done, flowers. And roses is what I made, but you could do any kind of flower you want. But that's what this kind of reminds me of, because it isn't stiff and it's very pliable. So there you go, there's the second. How pretty is that? And they smell good too. So I'm just waiting. I just want to put a little bit of hot glue right here to hold it. Just going to hold that for a minute. My third one. And again, I'm going to go a little bit off of where this is. How pretty. I'm going to put a little bit of glue right down here in the hole here just to make sure it stays together there. Okay. And I like the way these dry. See how they curl up in certain spots? Makes it for a beautiful rose. So now where this seam is, I'm going to go off a little bit off the side to that, so it's not exactly where that seam is. Now I'm going to start gluing when I first start. just so that adheres, and hold it just for a minute. Okay. Now, if you were making a lot, depending on how many you make, you could leave this one the way it is and just more like a rose bud, not an actual full open rose. And you could even bring it together a little bit more so it isn't so open. That's just your preference. I'm going to leave it because I like the way that it's kind of curled up here. Now we're coming to the smaller ones, and I don't want to use the smaller ones for this because I want them for the rosebuds. Okay, see where it's open here? I'm going to start this petal on this seam so it covers that up. Now you're just going to start going around. Okay, you see what I mean? I want you to be able to see this. So I'm not going right on it. I'm going to go right next to it and then start bringing it around. Together with the glue. What's kind of good about the apples too, they have a natural sugar, so they have a little bit of a stickiness to them on their own. Not enough to hold them if you want to keep this for a long time. Look how pretty that's starting to get now, where I'm able. And see, by doing it a little bit off point, meaning off a little bit from the last seam of the petal where you glued it, you're starting to get these petals. Okay, I think I'm going to put a couple more petals, and I'm going to call this one done, and then I'll start wrapping it with the floral tape. Let's see. And now, as I'm going, see how I'm kind of letting it rest kind of out? And here's the seam again, and I'm going off point just a little bit. So I'm not going right on the seam, I'm going just off to the right a little bit. Okay. And this is just the same way you would do if you were working with clay. And as you get further down, you see the apple's not meeting exactly, and that's not a big deal. Because even if you left it like this, you're going to wrap it. Okay. Well, one more, and I'm just going to go right over here on this side. Now, you don't have to go like, move them down like this. If you want more of a closed rose, then don't do that. And there you go. There's your rose made out of dried apple slices. And start wrapping the dowel. So let's start wrapping. And for leaves, what I've done is a lot of times when I buy flowers and I cut them, say that they're on a garland, and I'm just cutting the roses like to go onto something. I'll keep the leaves deliberately, so if I'm making any other kind of flowers, I can add leaves to it, and I'll show you. Twist this floral tape because it's a sticky tape, and it just kind of adheres itself to that piece. Or here's some leaves from another rose that I took the flower off of. And you don't need to use all the leaves. What you could do, and it's just your preference, you could leave it like this if you're doing a single rose for a gift, or put on a package, or put in a vase. Or you can just take, let me show you, you can cut this. And I'll cut that part off, but if you just want a couple of leaves on it, and pull on this tape when you're doing it. Don't just loosely, pull it tight. And I'm going to go up a little bit more. Okay, so here's some baby's breath. This was from my daughter's baby shower. My granddaughter's 2.5 years old. Still have it, and I have it in a wreath that I made. Look how that just does something to it. So what I'm going to do, and if you had fresh baby's breath, it's really plump still, and then it'll all dry together with your apple, because your apple will continue to dry. So I'm just going to go right here. I don't know that I would do real leaves, although you do if you're using real baby's breath, because the leaves, I think, unless you did like I did with the apple and you submerge them into glycerin, then it might make it pliable and not where they get crumbly. So what do you think? Perfect for Valentine's. Can you imagine getting a vase with a few of these in it? I'd love it. Okay, and I am done with this one. This took 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 petals, or 7 slices. This took 7 slices of the apple. So the 2 apples that we dried will probably make 3 roses and maybe a rosebud. But how beautiful. And what it's like when you're molding it, it's like leather. But the key, the biggest key, 2, I believe, are letting those sit in a lemon and glycerin bath for at least a half hour before you start to dry them, and that they are very, very thinly sliced. Really work up fast. These are not hard to put together. They really aren't. Once you do one, you'll be a pro. And there you go. You could put them in a bouquet like that. You could put some ribbon around it. You could put just one rose. And this, I would either put some raffia, and remember you can make it fuller just by, I've shown you this before, but where you rip it apart, and then put it back, it makes a fuller bow. I want it to look very natural. So with the raffia, instead of the ribbon, I think I get that. If you'll try it, I will show you pictures. Stay for the pictures at the end, and I'll show you where I'm putting them. Okay? So, okay, let me show you where I have them right now. How pretty is that laying next to this picture that I did of my son and his fiancée, and I did a DIY on that you'll be seeing. To me it looks so romantic. And then over here I just have them in a vase. And in the back the other 2 in the vase. So until next time, remember the world's a better place because you're in it. Don't ever, ever forget that. I'll be talking to you soon, guys. Bye.